Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Black Lightning. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's interesting, the Freeland situation. Obviously, when you look at it, at least you can make some argument that Freeland was kind of united, because it was kind of united against the ASA, kind of the Markovian situation, but now, Freeland's kind of back to being divided, because you have, the 100 and the Cobras, going at it, but then you also have, the police who are looking at not just the 100 or the Cobras as enemies, but also metahumans as well, bringing in weapons, which it turns out Monta Vista International is the one responsible for it. The very person that Gambi, it's friends with, who is all, friends, with quotes, because it seems like obviously they have a past and there's something there between them. And once again, I think her name was Helen, something like that. So, makes you wonder, did Gambi get close to her? That whole thing is probably, I think it's this episode that he found out who was responsible for all the weapons, and now he realizes, Monta Vista is, so he's trying to get close to her. In particular, he ends up getting himself hired in the R&D division. Because it wasn't just he was just trying to get hired. He was trying to get himself in a good enough position, but also I think in particular he's trying to get close to her, because he found out, these weapons, anti-meta-human weapons have been a thing before, but now he was saying basically they're 600% more lethal. To find out that basically the cops are kind of ordering that, it's kind of interesting. And even Lala saying at one point in time, got to make sure we get some of those weapons, because for him it's taking out metas, there should only be one power in this town, and it's going to be him. He's going to wipe out the Cobras. He's going to wipe out the any metahumans, because he wants to be top dog in town. So I'm curious how much the police know. Does Chief Lopez know how deadly these weapons are? Does she care? Because I guess it's Freeland is theirs. It's not the Cobras, it's not the 100, it's not the metahumans, it's ours. But it's going to be a thing of it's like I said, it's just so many sects and so many groups. Freeland is so divided like that. Obviously, there's a little bit of that disconnect, I'm sure, because, obviously, there's some metahumans, I'm sure, I'm sure even they probably look at Black Lightning a certain way. Granted, to be fair, he hasn't been seen in so long, so we don't really know where their standing would be in that regard, considering, Black Lightning's always been a hero, but obviously kind of existed outside of the law and everything. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, how this power dynamic and structure is going to play out over the course of this season. Like I said, literally considering everyone's literally at war with everyone else. We haven't really seen too many metahumans outside of the Pierce family. We haven't seen many, if any, at all. So that's the thing. Because obviously, what it's mostly focusing on is I think the gang violence that's taking over Freeland. Everything's kind of Freeland's on its last legs, and. Speaking of the Pierce family, just seeing them as every episode goes by, just seeing how more and more messed up and kind of broken this family is to a certain extent. Just because, you have Lynn, and as Jeff says it, she exchanged one drug for another. It's because the Glimmer gave her benefit, because the Glimmer made her mind process in a way it didn't before, and now it's just now you've exchanged what that drug did for your mind to the abilities you have now. She's trying to help out. For her, it's she was trying to back up, Jennifer, because it's hey, your dad's not out here to have your back. Someone needs to have your back. But it's you don't have any formal training, Mom. You're not even a real meta. You're just essentially borrowing meta-human abilities. And it's because for Lynn, she's feeling a little useless, I think. And I think that's sadly something is kind of going around, for a lot of people. There's that situation with Anissa and Darius. They weren't able to save that boy's life that died in that shootout, and it's I don't know if he died. Yeah, it was because Darius and her ran off towards the shootout. So it was that death was a part of that. So he kind of feels useless, but it's Anissa's trying to make him realize you're not useless. I get it, how hard things can be, we're doctors, we want to help people, but that's even more reason just to kind of keep going. Part of me wonders, is she eventually going to bring him into the fold about like everything she's doing as Blackbird? Not necessarily everything she's doing as Thunder, but specifically as Blackbird. We'll see. I was wondering if she was going to try and recruit him in that point in time, because I'm sure having a doctor kind of tapped in and everything would probably help. But I guess it's like, well, we're doing good here as well. So I thought it was even interesting too, because him pointing out like your mom kind of runs this place, yet you're willing to kind of do the dirty work. Because I think for her, like, she just wants to help people, and like there's no, because I think it's also in the situation of because obviously we don't know what, I guess that was supposed to be Grace like shifting, and she was like, no, I can't deal with this right now. So either that was like, I don't know whether that was her seeing something, or whether that's supposed to be like, I don't know, because like Grace is supposed to be in a coma, so I don't know what that was. They kind of like showed that and quickly just, so I don't know if there's like I said, maybe it's just her trying to get away from like having Grace on her mind all the time, or maybe that was legitimately Grace shape-shifting into that, and it's like maybe she's kind of backpedaled a little bit, and her powers are just so out of control that she's shifting all the time now. I don't know. I didn't know what to really make. Like I said, it was like a quick shot of a scene. It's like literally on the screen for a couple seconds, and then we just kind of don't talk about it. So I don't know what to really make it. I feel like I'm probably missing something there. But circling back to the point I was making earlier, it's, you know, with Lynn, she even was, you know, in her therapy session, and it was a situation where it's like, you know, she realized, like, now with the whole Henderson situation, she realizes, like, why she kind of has the perspective she did is because she's like, I don't have any friends. I was like, right. When you actually look back on it, it's like, you've never actually seen Lynn have much of a social life. I mean, to be fair, you never really see that too much in any of these superhero shows to begin with, but at least, like, you've seen Anissa have somewhat of a social life. But even she talks about the fact, because she was talking to Darius about how, like, he's kind of going out, kind of enjoying life. She's like, yeah, I haven't really done that as much. She's like, I used to be like that. That was before her powers developed, before she found her mission as both Thunder and Blackbird. So like everyone, like the mission has just kind of become all there is to their lives to a certain extent. And for Lynn, it's like all she has is work and family. It's like outside of that, she doesn't really have any friends. So, and you know, also like it's like, oh, do I have any hobbies? And she's like, not really. So it's like, for so long, this is kind of all she's had, and and I think that's gotten worse and worse. Because you may argue that even Jeff kind of had at least some form of a social life, you know, Henderson, but also a little, like, obviously that's an aspect you never really get to see too much, but you do get to see, like, that human element to it. But even then, like, from what we've seen of Lynn, to my recollection, even at the beginning of the series, we never really saw her have much of, like, a social life. It was just kind of a, like, hey, I'm working all the time. My family and my job, that's all she really has. And like I said, the same thing for like Jennifer, you know, her mom's like, oh, go to college and stuff like that, but she's like, I don't know, like, considering everything that's going on, I really don't have in my mind like SATs and stuff like, it's, you know, it's like, it's that situation of like, we literally just dealing with a war in Freeland last year, and you worried about school because it's fallen to the wayside. But her mom wants her, like, no, I want you to have something besides just being lightning. Like, you know, that isn't a life just having being all there is to you. There has to be more in life than just being a hero. You have to have something just for yourself. But I think for Jennifer, I think she and Anissa are in an interesting spot where they've kind of embraced their powers on a level, like, I think maybe Jeff, because we never got too much experience with Jeff when he was originally Black Lightning. So who knows, like, maybe he was just kind of enjoying it in the same vein, but as he got older, like, you know, Lynn always said that he was addicted to his powers, and I think maybe, I feel like you're definitely seeing it with, obviously with Lynn to a certain extent, but I think you're also seeing it with Jennifer, because obviously she got wounded, but she also went up in the sky and like absorbed the energy. I think that's kind of her drug in a sense, not just her power, but just I think how it makes her feel, because she literally passed out at the end of last episode, but it's like, you didn't tell anybody about that. So I don't know whether it's maybe a situation that she's like overcharging herself, like it feels so good to charge up, but it's like she's over charging her body, and obviously like controlling her powers was an issue before, but now she has a little bit more control. I think she's kind of letting her guards down and just absorbing too much energy, because I think it's almost like it almost seems like it's a high that she's getting from it. You know, at least that's how I'm looking at it, you know? And then on top of everything, you have Jeff, who's, you know, got obviously a lot of feelings, especially because, like, it turns out like one of the people, the boy that died in the shootout, his dad is someone that works at the school. And for Jeff, it's like, you should have came to me. Like, things were, apparently they don't have a home, they're living out of their car, because everything that went down last year put them in a tough spot. The dad, he felt like, oh, I'm on top, I can at least get back on top of things, but things just fell short. Now, because of everything, I guess because of them living in a car, like their living situation, his kids got taken by social service, so it's like everything's kind of falling apart. And I think, Jeff, he was talking to their therapist, and it was like, I see myself in him. Like, he's like, losing a child in front of you, he's like, that worry comes across his mind. I'm like, obviously it would anybody's mind. And it's like, she talks about how, someone else's feelings, like, could bottle up, kind of, attached to your own, because it's like almost like an empathetic situation of like how that person's feelings can kind of be your own to a certain extent, because obviously Jeff is going through a lot, because it's like, the loss of a friend, makes him kind of connect with his coworker of like losing a son like that. Because also I think, that's his worry that his children, especially with everything going on, because Tobias is back making moves. I have to look into it. I don't think it is. That actor who was like beside him, that's not the actor who played Victor Zsasz in Gotham, is it? I don't think it is, but it looked like it could have been him, but I don't think it is. But regardless, Tobias is making moves, and he's back. He's got some serums that make him immune to Jeff's powers, and it's just a situation for him. It's like, I'm going to take everything you love one by one, but it's not going to be any fun if you don't fight back. Because he's like, look, I'm not going to fight you, Jeff. He's like, trying to be high and mighty of like, oh, it's like, I'm above you. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm helping people. I don't have time to just fight some thug in the streets. It's holier than thou perspective. He's kind of like, shoveling out. Obviously, we know who he is. It's like, it's like, oh, I remember all the pain and heartache you caused me, Jeff. I know who and what you are. And now, and this is brought it up last episode. He knows who we are. So what are we going to do about it? We need to kill him. But obviously Jeff's not ready to go down that path. But Jeff is he has so much anger inside of him, because he's sad. He's angry. Like, even at one point we see him get out of bed. He releases his power, and then he passes out from it. And it's like, Lynn was like, whoa, what are you doing sleeping on the floor? What happened? I thought you came down to catch. She's like, no, I got it. I guess he just, because once again, using his powers without the suit, because it can cause neurological damage. It's kind of what Gamby's most worried about. It's like, because the suit regulates his power, so there's basically no feedback on him. Having electrical powers can do something to his nervous system as well. So. But Jeff is just so angry, and it's just like, he has so much, I think he's not 100% dealing with. He's kind of bottling a lot of it up, and it's like, he has an argument with Gamby of like, okay, find me the shooter. It's like, for what? So you can go and, attack him the way you attack those cops, or you beat that man up last episode. It's like, no, like, you don't want to be Black Lightning, yet you're going out here using your powers without the suit, because it's like you're not thinking clearly. And he's like, oh, I've never been. It's like, no, Jeff, you're not clear. You're not clear-minded at all. It's just he's driven by like this anger, because he feels powerless. Even with all these powers, it's like he couldn't save his friend. Because I think the war with Markovia gave him something to aim for, but now it's just like, I gotta back away. Because it's Black Lightning, I couldn't do anything. I might have helped stop this war, but I couldn't save my friend. When the time came, when it mattered, I couldn't do anything for the people that are important to me. So for him, it's like, he's lost. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, even this therapist is talking about it. She's like, what he's going through is public knowledge. She's like, your dad was murdered, and it's like, that is a key factor of like, that's something he's still never 100% dealt with, and that's still there. It's like having the tools to kind of get you through a lot of stuff is what she's there to help. It's like, I'm not saying like I'm gonna be able to fix everything, but at least give you the tools to kind of take yourself along the step. Because I think dealing with that in its entirety is like, I think that stems from a lot of his anger. It's like it's been there, probably boiling underneath. and it's just been one thing after another, and he just seeing what's going on with his family, and it's just like, they're not all on the same page anymore. They're just, and even to the point, like I said, like Anissa and Jennifer, telling her to back away from, like, Lynn to back away from this whole thing, because it's like, you don't have the training, you're a liability. And so everyone wants to feel useful in their own right. Everyone wants to try and do their thing, because, you have Anissa trying to create, like, at least a safe zone. It's like, this safe zone is going to be for the homeless. Allow them an opportunity to be free of all you guys BS, so that they can at least, like, get back on their feet. Which Lala's like, hey, the more quicker they get back on their feet, the more drugs they can buy from us. And obviously, for Destiny, it's like, hey, more clients. So it's like, all right, we'll adhere to this. So she's making this kind of, like, treaty with the two bad guys. It's like, you guys want to go at it, you do your thing. Which that's an interesting and complicated thing, because it's like, you're making a compromise, but it's like, considering everything that's going down, it's not like Thunder her as Blackbird or Thunder, like, if she handles things, I think that seeing that boy died, I think that's what really sparked it for her. Like, there needs to be some safe zone, because she knows, like, them busting heads isn't going to stop this. So it's like, you guys are going to do what you're going to do. You're going to fight. So it's like, she's trying to maneuver around the situation, because that's the complicated thing. It's like, as a superhero, should you be making compromises like that? But you're trying to do what's best for everyone else, like making at least a safe zone for people. But at the end of the day, it's like, is that enough? Like, they're going to keep this treaty, obviously, for their own selfish reasons, but at least it creates this, at least some safe haven of sorts. So it's just, there's no easy solution to this. It's my whole point to it, that I think, obviously, Anissa's trying to handle this the best she can, considering everything. Like I said, just like, everyone's kind of out to get theirs. Everyone's got their own side. The lines have been drawn in the sand, and, you also have Jeff going around Gamby. It's like, oh, if Gamby's not going to give me the information I want, he gets TC to give him the address, which Jeff goes there, busts the dude's head. I mean, doesn't nearly do it well. At first, it seemed like he was going to do as much of a number on the dude, because you're like, all right, he beat him up, and he's like, all right, you're going to turn yourself into the cops. But then he grabs the dude's leg, and you're like, but he's like, but you're going to go there in crutches, and breaks his leg. You're like, I was like, it was almost like you were about there, but it's like, at this point in time, at least before, it seemed like, Jeff, he would have fallen in that vigilante, lane, but at least he seemed like a hero. Now he's just going, taking justice in his own hand. He's become judge, jury, and executioner. Granted, he hasn't gotten to that point, but it's like, you going down this route, like, how can you get so upset with them suggesting murder and stuff like that, when he almost feels like it's not quite the same thing, I'm sure, yes, but it feels like you can potentially end up going down that route so easily now. Not saying it, but it's just like, he's so angry, and all he's going to do is take the wrong thing to set him off. He's not in a good place right now mentally, with his family. It's just, and I'm sure using his powers in this state is also going to take, its toll on him in the grand scheme of things as well. So it's just it's so, like I said, so many moving pieces, so many things at once, just going wrong, and just not everything being 100% dealt with. Like, Jeff's not telling, because even at one point it's like, oh, like, how are you feeling about, because for him it's like, Lynn kind of not calling me, because how he's feeling is natural, is what his therapist was trying, and he's like, oh, that's a word Lynn would never use to describe me, natural. But he's like, no, I'm not trying to talk about my wife behind my back. It's like, but she's like, you're entitled to feel the way you feel. So I think that kind of goes back to my point of, like, there's so much he's internalizing, yes, but he's not letting people know, like, what's in his heart and what's on his mind. Like, everyone's kind of living their lives, but it's like, I think the problem is no one's talking. Like, he confronted Lynn, but Lynn's like, that's always you're looking at the bad side of everything. I'm not going to let you, like, kind of take this down, like, tear me down a little bit, on me trying to do some good. You don't want to be Black Lightning, and someone's got to have the girl's back, but also it's like, they look at it as like, you're just a liability. We need your help, Mom, but not in that scope, in that way, It's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, light to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.